There's no sugarcoating it. Yrliet is probably the most finest hour coded companion in the game. Now, anyone that has seen a bunch of my guides knows that I'm not a big fan of just stacking buffs and then calling that a build. I like to meticulously plan out the level ups and bring out the most potential of any companion and make them self-sufficient. So if you choose to stack 5 buffers on top of them, that what I give you will be stronger than what anyone else gives you. The problem with Yrliet isn't that she's so weak that she needs buffs, it's just that her unique gear is so strong when you have access to Finest Hour. It's sort of... It's not a problem, as I would say, but it definitely does cause me a bit of cringe, thinking that, well, actually, technically, yes, buff stacking Yrliet is the best way to play Yrliet. So let me show you some gameplay, and then I can sort of explain the build that you can put together and sort of talk you through it. In the early game, when you first pick up Yrliet, she is fine to play like you would any other companion, which is just using the turns you need to. You don't need to rely on buffs to do what she needs to do, and you can go on and go forward. And she has some very unique and strong Aldari and Drukhari gear to do some really cool stuff. However, some of the gear you'd think, like the Kane's Revenge, would be incredibly overpowered. This was an example of some footage here where I was showing around using it with a Swift Shroud cloak, hoping that I could stack the Lullaby of Sha'eil by attacking enemies during your turn. However, the dodges for counterattacks and melee only work during enemy turns, not when they attack you, as you can see here. However, the Lullaby of Sha'eil is Yrliet's best gun by far, because every crit you do will slowly increase Yrliet's damage, making her essentially a locomotive character. This is why she benefits so well from Finest Hour, because every potential shot, every potential kill makes Yrliet stronger. So if I show without cutting and montaging here, just kind of a really good Yrliet setup. So I take my first shot, it misses the first guy, hits the second guy, and it does 40 damage. So you might look at that and be like, ooh, that's quite low though. That's quite low though. However, every time you manage to get some extra kills, you will notice you'll pick up some damage. So the way my build did that is I got a kill, it proc Death Dealer to get another shot, which got another kill, and then would allow a secondary bounty hunter like Pascal to set more exploits for Yrliet and Joint Analysis, which will then further give her even more increased damage. However, as I keep making shots and attacks, this damage will increase. Now, I am using the Death Dealer gauntlets on her at the moment, but you could probably be better to use the Marksman Braces. Death Dealer Gauntlet, what they do is it slowly stacks up even more damage, but by the time it gets to the same 25% as the Marksman Braces, you might as well just always use the Marksman Braces. Now, in combats where you have hundreds of enemies, yeah, that would be better in the long run. But overall, I think it's better just to go with Marksman's Braces. And if someone else already has them, then you can give her the Death Dealer Gauntlets. But as you can notice here, is as Yrliet kills prey, it gives Pascal, who's also a bounty hunter with Yrliet, an extra turn. So they can start stacking some extreme buffs. If you give Yrliet the armor that makes her single shots not be able to miss, then she can actually do quite a lot from that alone. And you can even give her items and consumables like Flash, so she can get free reloads during those Finest Hour turns. Though I do have it equipped, but I'm not using it at the moment, so I don't really need to. I've stacked up a lot of buffs here, and now I can use my Colderbold as well as my Claim the Bounty to do incredible damage. This is Yrliet's highest damage output build, and you don't need as many buffs as other builds. Like, to get more damage than what you're doing here with minimum buffers. So notice the only buffs that I really haven't played is Joint Analysis and what Eogun added. I could easily stack on Commissar buffs, I could easily stack on I could even stack on Extra Militarum Commander buffs, I could even stack on Navigator buffs, I could stack on Psyker buffs, but I'm just going to keep building up damage regardless, and every kill as battles go on will keep adding more and more and more. And yes, once per main turn, you can only do one really big attack with Cold the Bold and Claim the Bounty, but Yrliet will often generate a lot of AP anyway. If I want to even add on a little bit more, I can use Tactical Knowledge to add on even more imp bonus. So I'll click Claim the Bounty, and I will also do Precise Attack, which will build up some more perception. And you notice I'm going to hit this Gene Stealer really hard. One thing I wasn't showing was on this build specifically as well, I did just get a second shot for 2k there, is my precise attacks will also deal more damage. So you could easily build up to 5k damage on this one pretty simply, but I was just showing off just something a little bit more AP efficient. But yeah, she wants to do 3.4k there. I can do this double shot here. 3.5k. I can also show you a little bit more of doing up to 4k on a slightly different setup, but This one, like I said, because you take an extra turn to pass out and you send it up, like, the damage will go up quite exponentially. Again, if I actually take another precise shot just to show it off, so I could claim the bounty here, and that'll do 1800 there, and it can't miss. But then if I want to switch to a precise shot here, then yeah, there's a 4k there. So yeah, this build, like I said, it's like a locomotive, and it's like my stats aren't even that crazy. This is just how her self-bust work with Bounty Hunter. So let's get into the build and explain why it's going from 300 damage to 4.5k there. Realistically, if you look at any Yrliet build, you'll see that it's pretty much all Lullaby of Sha'eil, and anyone claiming that it's anything other than that gun is probably lying to you. But as you can see, I'm getting over 1,000 bonuses from Hunt Down the Prey there. Considering items are so key to Yrliet's build, and she is so reliant on using fire and style to get the best out of them, let's talk about some of the individual items that we've got going on here. And like I said, I feel like I'd be misleading you if I didn't say that this is essentially the crutch of every Act 4 build for Yrliet, which is the Lullaby of Sha'eil. Basically what this does is whenever the wielders attack with this weapon scores a critical hit, the base damage is increased until the end of combat. Now I believe this formula, which we can't currently see in game, is something to do with agility. Can't remember what the exact numbers are, but I'm sure Adam on the wiki can answer that. But basically, as you buff up Yrliet and you stack some scene buffs, every time she scores a critical hit, increases the damage of this weapon until the end of combat. So you can use this in a number of many ways to keep stacking damage. Like I said, at the moment I am using the Death Dealer gloves, which can only be used by an Aeldari character, which is the wearer's damage increased by 2% for each critical hit and each enemy killed until the end of combat. Now, because of how slow this is, ideally you do want to use marksman's braces, because 25% is just going to work out longer, because if you think about it, before 2% to get up to 25%, the amount of attacks you need, there's probably not going to be many encounters where there are that many enemies, and there are a lot of other options that you can put on Yrliet, but you don't really need it. Something quite useful early on is the Outcast Visor, but it is only for a single kill, so to get an additional attack economy in Act 2, this is quite useful, along with the Hunter's Father's Armor, which kind of drops off a little bit later, which is you use an MP to get another attack, but it doesn't reduce the cost of that attack. One of the other really useful armors that you can put on her is the Revenge of Cain, but the problem with the Revenge of Cain is it only works during enemies' turns, so if she does an attack during their turn, she will take a sniper shot, which again, using items like Lullaby Sha'eil will do quite useful, but I'd prefer Cold Blood because, yeah, basically it's like a Blessed Bolter casing. Your attacks can't miss, so even if you only got 1% chance to hit, you're gonna hit, so you might as well go for it. You can, as a bounty hunter, put on the self-calibrating goggles, because if you ever shoot enemies that are currently suffering from the stun condition, you will get an additional attack back. And there are other items like Cape of the Righteous Fury, which will, for every kill the wearer increases their critical hit chance by 5%. You will get to that 100% very quickly, and excess crit chance doesn't do anything. Sharpshooter Boots is very useful for when you're in any cover. You get 40% additional armor pen, which is quite nice considering that your weapon's only 25% armor pen, but on a bounty hunter you stack up so much armor penetration, yeah, this stops doing a lot quite early on, but again, there's not really many other options. Like Elder Flow's nice because whereas first attack during the round costs 0 AP, and whenever the wearer attacks the enemy and triggers an exploit with this attack, the triggered effect is calculated as if they had an additional exploit. And the Aeldari Ranger Sight, which is the wearer's Dead Eye Shots, the Dead Eye Shot critical hit triggers expose weakness against the effective enemy until the end of combat. So that is quite useful with this build. Yes, Dead Eye Shot is 2 AP, so it's not very AP efficient unless you're standing in the rear line at the start of the turn for one attack. And it's the same like another weapon on here, the Wanderer's Potent, which is what the wearer can only perform Dead Eye Shots with this weapon. However, if they kill an enemy with a critical hit using this weapon, they gain additional attack a turn, and you can use that effect with Claim the Bounty to get an additional attack economy back. Range builds really do suffer from having a very limited amount of usable gear choices, and most of the really good gear items are kind of universal and you could use on any other character, so you tend not to put them on Yrliet to be precise, but these will all work very well, and even Yrliet's unique Wraithbow necklace just to get an additional 10 agility and perception. Very useful for early game in Act 2 and Act 3. But like I said, the main damage increases that you're going to see on Yrliet is going to be the Lullaby of Sha'eil, using stuff like Extermination, Death Dealer, Masterful Precision, and I think, no, is it just Masterful Decision? Potentially Masterful Display, though I don't use one of them on this build. We'll go through some of the talents, we'll look at some of the options, but Yrliet you can change around a lot, and it's more important about the order you take it, and I'm going to be honest, Bounty Hunter is much stronger than Assassin. Assassin is not online until Act 4, and it requires damage to do damage, so unless you're buffing every stat to 300, Assassin doesn't keep up with Bounty Hunter. And even in the case where you are buffing it to 300, over the course of a battle, if you're giving Yrliet Finest Hour anyway, she's going to end up doing a lot more as a Bounty Hunter than she would as an Assassin. It's better to leave Assassins to characters like Mirazhai, who can do the Death Aura build and use stuff like Levian Fury with Hitaraki of Bloodthirst, or even giving it to Cabela, that once she's fixed, as soon as Cabela's fixed, because at the moment she is a bit bugged, but yeah, as soon as the devs do fix her so she isn't, you know, not getting scaling and not counting as melee on her Blade Dancer abilities, I can show you an exceptionally powerful assassin build for Cabela as well as Mirazhai. I have gone through and I have updated his build a little bit, but overall, I'm still going to say that for Yrliet, you're going to want to use Bounty Hunter. And unfortunately, this DLC didn't really give her much, other than the fact that operatives now get exploits on extra turns, which is, it's just a pure buff for her. And combining her with Pascal means there's going to be a lot of exploits in combat. Yrliet's In My Sights ability is also best used by a bounty hunter using Share the Spoils, because as prey dies that isn't killed by Yrliet, it gives her an extra turn. So if Pascal is currently going off and doing stuff, Yrliet can mark a number of different enemies, so at the start of her turn she'll take multiple shots that will go off against all of those enemies, and she can stack this up. So if Pascal kills 3 prey and Yrliet sets these for 3 more attacks and then takes her turn, she'll actually start off by firing 3 attacks. The upgrades just reduce the cost, but it isn't something you're overly going to invest in because it's not the strongest in terms of origins, and her other stuff, she uniquely gets Path of the Outcast. This is what makes Yrliet a better sniper than what the player can build, because not only does she have access to the Aldari and Drukhari gear, she can also use the Path of the Outcast, which is when the Yrliet kills a target with a single shot attack from an Aldari weapon for the first time in a round, she immediately gains an additional attack. So she has slightly better attack economy than other operative bounty hunters. Yrliet's base archetype has been improved and changed again. There's not going to be too much to talk about here, because obviously this is what we can't change, because you recruit her at level 15. Yrliet's built in for awareness. She does take sharpshooter, so she does prefer not to move before she takes her shots. She builds up her perception. She gets ballistic calculation, so she does do more damage to enemies that are quite far away. Precise attack can be used to guarantee a hit before you get access to cold blood, and it can be used with insightful precision to build up her perception. Fresh target means that she does more damage to people at full health. Swift movements is a completely wasted talent on her. I don't know why they gave her to that. She does have dismantling upgrade 3, which allows enemies dodge and armor, which is one of the good ones, and she also goes into Lord Xenos, as well as having uncanny sight. So this was a change they made in this patch, which is very good. She doesn't, however, have Tide of Excellence, and we can't pick that up till tier 3, so keep that in mind. In tier 2 she won't ramp up as much. Perfect Spot is going to be useful for perception and ballistic skill, because this will directly buff our Claim the Bounty, so it stops reducing damage. And like I said, Insightful Precision will help her when she shoots targets with high amount of exploits. She can turn that into perception. That won't really ramp up towards the end game, but also dismantling attack, the target will provoke attacks of opportunity whenever it attacks, mostly only useful on bosses, and chances are bosses already took their turn and won't survive to see their next. For me, with Bounty Hunter, the route of progression, the first thing that you do want to get is Claim the Bounty. This is the most important one to be increasing your attack economy, and also if you kill prey with it, it will increase your AP. Hunting Surge is another one that for whenever an enemy is killed by a critical hit, scored by the Bounty Hunter or the ally, the Bounty Hunter gains 2 times the enemy's difficulty tier damage for 2 rounds. This will start ramping up our damage. Wild Hunt can still bug out if you try to target prey marked by your allies. You still can only use this on prey that you marked yourself, and the game does record which Bounty Hunter applies it. Bliss skill, to get 1 point in there, is going to be quite useful here, because we'll reach that rounded number in Act 2. Path of the Outcast will be one we want to prioritize to get more attack economy. I get 1 point into intelligence because it is more useful for Yrliet now, and you do want to be applying more exploits. Heightened concentration, whenever the bounty hunter scores a critical hit, they get 9% arm penetration until the end of combat. The build is essentially done here. Everything after this point is just slowly improving it, because now we've got extra damage, we've got extra armor pen, and it will all just slowly ramp up. Cold the Bold is absolutely exceptional. When we shoot a target with this one, we will do a lot of additional damage. So you will be able to get 2 sources of damage coming in here. One will be from ballistic skill bonus, and another one will be from ballistic plus the greater of perception or int, and these will double stack against prey. So if you're using your Cold the Bold before sniping a prey, yeah, you'll do a lot of damage for that one attack. Inspiring Trophy is going to be another way we can generate AP, so this is going to be quite useful for us. Deadly accuracy is quite low. You just to critical damage by Eldari weapons get you perception bonus, additional damage, and it is a flat bonus, so you will see more damage, but it isn't exactly a big endgame one. Hunter's Ambush, like I said, if you're using self-calibrating goggles, you can increase your attack economy. When the bounty hunter performs a single target shot on an immobilized or stunned target, the attack refunds its cost and does not count to the attack limit. So if you are shooting that enemy going for that Deadeye shot, especially once you have some of the exemplar talents, it's just free. It's free real estate. Get more Lord Xenos, more ballistic skill, start getting some Wild Hunt upgrade too. So this gives us additional charges for Hunt Down the Prey, which is useful because then we can use that time to get more bonuses. Save the Kill is going to be a really useful one, which is whenever the prey that is not being trailed is killed by an ally, the bounty hunter gains an extra turn with half MP and AP. Even though you can't attack on this turn, like I said, you can be using this to stack up in my sights, but also for applying exploits, because now they apply on extra turns. You can use this to just jump up exploits. If you also have joint analysis, you can allow your allies to do extra damage based on your intelligence, so it is quite useful for them. I do build up awareness in Yrliet, and I carry on with Lord Xenos. For Act 3, I pick up Drukhari weapon efficiency. Everyone always asks, why do you take Drukhari weapon efficiency and Drukhari equipment? Because one is the equipment, one is the weapons. It's literally in the name. Because Yrliet tags along to Act 3, I take Ensnare the Prey. This is actually the ability that makes it very easy. Yrliet tends to have quite high initiative due to being an Eldari, so you can create distance by using her to run away and keep trapping enemies to slowly pick them off. If you've then paired with someone like Argenta, who's going to have the heavy stubber, you'll do a good job at trash clearing. Expert Finesse is another really good one. When you kill a tier 4 higher prey, you do get another attack. More attack economy means more stuff going on. Now, Expert Finesse is far less deadly to the party than when Pascal is using it, or even your own Rogue Trader if you go along my Bullseye build when you're using the Ballistic Calculator, but basically Yrliet's less likely to kill the allies, though if you have any yellow enemies she might accidentally shoot them anyway, and over-penetration is always going to be a bit of an issue, but we're not taking too much over-penetration stuff. Continuing up this build, I take Perception and Awareness to finish those things up. Cold the Bold is going to additionally remove some of the deflection and willpower and toughness from enemies, so if you don't kill them on that first hit, it will have some added bonuses. You could always take Gruesome Kill here if you wanted to lower enemies' agility instead. And like I said, level 19 and level 15, if you're not taking any Drukhari weapons for Act 3, you can always drop this talent and take something else there instead. And if you're not using the Drukhari equipment from, say, the Death Dealer gloves, then you can also drop this, and you can freely swap those to get Grenadier earlier, or even take some other talents, whatever you like. Like I said, these are designed to be build guides and skeletons for you to customize. Moving into tier 3, this is going to be a bit weird considering how much the meta shift with the 90% degraded defense nerf. Like I said, for Yrliet, she is very finest hour coded, but getting additional attacks is always going to be useful even if you're not going down that route. For rank 1, yes, Death Dealer to get additional attack economy, so when you make a kill, you will make another shot and you will get some additional bonus based on the target that was killed. Tide of Excellence means that every shot is going to start building up 1 damage and 2% armor penetration for your single shots, and the more that you trigger those exploits, the more you're going to do. So whilst you can't see a counter, this will start rapidly increasing your damage, and it does build in the whole playstyle of this with Lullaby of Sha'eil. Like I said, Yrliet's very finest hour coded. For Act 3, we do take Withdraw, along with those Drukhari talents. This one, again, it's just to survive Act 3, it's so things can't rush you so easily. If you're not taking into Act 3, this is another one that you could swap with another talent that comes in later. I start pushing in for Ballistic Skill and Grenadier. Grenadier is incredibly overpowered. Now that grenades scale with intelligence and you've got some exceptionally strong grenades, you might just use this for armor stripping when it comes to Ionide grenades, or even Tears of Repentance to put different debuffing stats on enemies, or you might just use it for the extra attack economy to blow some things up and get some Death Dealers going. Tactical Knowledge can help you turn your intelligence into additional damage, as well as build armor for the party. I continue taking Awareness. I pick up Masterful Precision. So this one is one that has a lot of benefits to it. So Deadeye shots can get increased damage, and this will also apply to Claim the Bounty if you're a bounty hunter, as well as Wild Hunt, or even your own dismantling attack. If you're assassin, it also applies to all of your assassin shots. So this one is really good actually, and because of the limits to degrade defense now being at 100%, the fact that this scales with 2 times perception bonus, if you're buffing your perception, yeah, this can be really good. I've seen builds where you've got like 300 perceptions, so that's a 60% damage boost, so yeah, that's always on, by the way, so you don't need to build it up, so it is quite useful. Pierce the Arm is one of those ones that you could always trade out something else, because if you're killing everything, you don't need to worry about reducing that armor, but it is useful if you're not. Improved Tactics can get even more intelligence in, so stacking up intelligence through buffs, really useful for Yrliet. Hot on the trail, yeah, if you're taking all those little extra turns from Save the Kill, then yeah, maybe instead of setting up in my sights, you might want to actually set up an extra turn via Hot on the Trail. We start increasing intelligence here, and I take some of the base and advanced skill law Xenos. Reason I like to take these is because it does help you with those checks if you're using Yrliet as a main Xenos check, because she has quite low intelligence being an Eldari. And like I said, these builds are designed to be skeletons. They are linked in the spreadsheet in the description below, so if you do want to change anything, do have a look at that. I pick up Drill and Shatter because 30% is actually a pretty big armor debuff, so it's very useful to have it on there. And again, that does scale with her perception bonus. I grab Deadly Aim here. So if the character's dodge reduction is higher than the enemy's dodge before applying calculations, you do get extra damage. Now, I've seen a good 20% here. You could trade this with Degraded Defense. If you're going to do it, probably swap out Deadly Aim. We get some more AP coming in at rank 10. I start building up continuous analysis and comprehensive analysis. This will help our exploits and our extra turns, especially if you're using Analyze Enemy on those extra turns. And we will be building up some more little Xenos to finish that up. Now, because you don't have enough time to build up a third skill, the reason I take Medicate at the end for many builds is just for yourself healing. Because, yeah, chances are you're not going to be able to cover those third skills, so it is just something that's worth taking. Share the spoils so you can get additional bonuses from Prey. Like I said, you could take this one much earlier. I've pointed to a couple of talents that you could switch out for this earlier, and that is all down to your own preference. Finishing up intelligence and moving on into perception, I do take extermination because if you are taking a lot of shots through finest hour, you are going to slowly start ramping up and building it, and again it will all build back into that Lullaby of Sha'eil, which is the main purpose of any Yrliet build. Sniper expertise will add on a 15% armor penetration to Sniper Expert, which is quite useful until you get that initial armor pen put in. At rank 16, taking in Gruesome Kill, which will lower agility of enemies that you've killed, around those that you killed. Like I said, this is one you could take earlier, and it's why we build for a skeleton, so you can edit things as you like. Weak Body, Weak Soul is going to help by lowering enemies' toughness and willpower, which is going to be good for lowering enemies' health. Finishing off the advanced skill law Xenos to help with those checks if you are using her in the main party. Joint analysis is going to be a way to get some extra intelligence damage to your allies' base damage for when you're doing those Save the Kills turn. Going into perception, picking up vital points, which is actually really good now because a lot of stuff it will give you half the bonuses again in the crit damage areas. Even works with Degraded Defense if you do end up picking that. So that is one way you can get a little bit more out of that. And Combat Insight is purely for the end boss because he has 50 deflection, so this will just completely ignore that, which will help her in the end game. And that's going to be Yrliet's build. Like I said, this version of Yrliet is very finest hour coded. She can work without it, and she does quite fine in the early game without it, and you can do quite a bit with her. You can even use some of the stims to get some extra things going on with her, but there's not too much you're going to really want to use, and because she doesn't get access to a lot of the augmentation, it is reduced what she actually got in this DLC. So at the end of the day, it is mostly going to be about using her to be shooting, stacking extra turns to continue blasting, and then just taking out more and more enemies. Though this flash can be quite useful for those finest hour turns if you want to save some AP. And like I said, Jay over here currently has marksman braces, which do work very nicely on Yrliet, and the only reason we are using Death Dealer gloves is because she currently has them. The cape itself, Cape of the Righteous Fury, you could swap that to the Swiss Shroud cloak to help with getting some dodges, and you can use the Wrath of Cain, but that will only counter attack during enemy turns. But if you want to switch out one of those potent, maybe get the Prey Bounty Hunter one, that is something you could do, but marking things with extra Prey for 2 AP to then do claim the bounty, not the strongest strategy, and it is nowhere near as good as just getting an extra attack now, and obviously continuing to build up some stuff with Lullaby of Sha'eil. But that's it, I've been Rem619, if you found this helpful, do like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next stream and the next video.